Hey guys, it's Mark from Needlejig. I hope you're as excited as I am about the very first Needlejig Northeast Meetup coming up here October 24th and 25th at Jiminy Peak Mountain Resort in Hancock, Massachusetts. That's right in my backyard. Last week I had a chance to talk to Aaronn Williams from Tattcom. He and his business partner will be coming up to the event to talk about Tattoo Technology, specifically their power supply, which is incredible. So let's take a look and see what Aaronn had to say about what he has planned for the event. I'm excited to see you, brother,
For
and
sure.
whatnot. But I've
Yeah,
been
I believe you'll be meeting the other half too, the T and Tatcom. So I believe Tim is coming up with me.
That's awesome.
So we'll both be there and trying to figure out what we can put together. As far as occupying some presentation time.
Mm-hmm.
I know I talked to Renee when I was at Rubber City Convention, and she had said, just anything on the differences between power supplies and
Yeah.
batteries and, consistency and all this. So I'm thinking like I've got some scripts that I've been working on for some YouTube videos of like the unscripted of what we were just talking about is fine, but I'm trying to communicate some higher level
Yeah.
educational type stuff that kind of needs to be filled into a well thought out format instead of off the cuff. So
Just
I'm
find a way to
almost
break it down into fucking layman's terms, you
well,
know?
that's what I'm doing, and not the problem, but the challenge becomes it's not just here's words and here's my face and here's a picture of a tattoo machine. I'm having to do 3D animations. I'm having to create other pieces of
Yeah.
the puzzle to fill these and illustrate these things, and then set up things like here's a scope and here's measurements, or here's just that stuff is all how to present that and how to, like you said, break that down to what they know what they're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
It's some of the stuff I'm like one of my videos here is the relationship between tattoo machine speed and torque. What you need to know. That's my video title, and
Yeah.
it's there. There's a lot of factors that go into tattooing well: the art of skill, the type of needle and ink, the correct tattoo machine speed, and torque. In this video, we'll learn about the relationship between the machine speed and torque and how it affects your overall tattooing experience.
Yeah.
Basically, hinting on something like our power supply, which is varying the voltage. Speed is directly proportional to the input voltage of a DC motor,
Right.
and start to explain out the speed and torque curve in layman's terms of what they can understand through some animations, through some real world demonstrations, and a 5 to 10 minute package that can be digested easily by somebody.
Sweet.
I've got several other the truth about tattoo power supplies, what volts, amps, and watts really mean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean,
have all your nerdy stuff, like fucking full on blown all your nerdy stuff. But what you said earlier was super important is the what you need to know part. What the few key characteristics that actually apply themselves to they're going to be the key benefits to your sales pitches, to these people understanding the product better and everything. So
yeah,
you know,
like this one that's volts, amps, and watts. I mean? And then talking about hitting some basics on some DC power. I mean, if I have an hour, then we could definitely get into showing some demonstrations between like a switch mode power supply and noise on it versus a battery with no noise on it, and then showing some differences between when you hit a current limit, the voltage starts to drop, and starting to show some simple little triangle with Ohm's law and all that stuff on there, and we'll see. We'll see what we can do. I might even be able to get some more hands-on stuff and bring some breadboards and bring some other stuff that we could show and people could have hands-on with laying that kind of stuff out. And I got to brainstorm a little bit more and come up with a good format that, like you said, lay people can digest and kind of make this where I'm bringing in like a fifth grader into
yeah, I mean, just coming up with
electricity.
analogies, like coming up with analogies so people can visualize it maybe in a different light and understand it as what I find works. But the whole idea is just literally to get people to know you. You're a good fucking human. You know your shit. And now it's just conveying that to the other people, build support for you, your company, and your brand. I mean, your biggest sales pitch should be just simply something like the best of both worlds. You can do it the old-fashioned way, and you can power your machine by volts, or you can power it by cycles.
Mhm.
You know, cycles is far superior, but if you want to be, if you want to fucking ride a horse, ride the horse. But we're flying jets over here or something, like just something,
Yeah, it becomes tough because, like in the marketing realm, I see some other companies out there, both domestically here and overseas, pushing marketing terminology that's misleading,
Oh yeah.
technologically wise. And when I start to say that, like, what my product does, and you can run your machine off volts, and you can have the speed decrease when you hit the skin, as is what's going to happen with what I was going to put on in my speed versus torque demonstration, that's showing that that's as expected. But when you start to say that, um, you're giving volts and a hertz priority on a brushless machine that uses a two-wire brushless motor, this is really not what you're doing, because when you put a steady voltage to that, the internal controller holds a steady speed. So now what you're doing is you're doing a current sensing, that when the current goes up, you reduce the voltage to slow the machine down to simulate a type of bog,
How
right?
many people? How many people on this planet that are in the tattoo industry know that?
None. I mean, very few. There are some that
So
I talk to,
don't 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 sweat
well,
that.
the ones that know it are the ones that have bought that product under some hope that that thing works, and now they don't use it because it's trash and it didn't do what the company said it was going to. And that's one thing that, up at Rubber City, we had, I think, 12 units or something like that in use up there, and a couple of guys that I was just meeting for the first time that I've interacted with on social media and have tagged us, but I just met. And I heard from one of them. He said something about, like, what I like best about your power supply. So what's that? He goes, that when I bought it, I read and it said it was going to do something, and it fucking did it. I
Yeah.
don't have to call anybody out specifically to say that if you buy a power supply that says that it's outputting 6.5 volts on the digital display, that I would hope that it wasn't really outputting 6.9 volts. Right? And now that becomes, is this a problem of this is doing this because it's a manufacturing error and just a poorly engineered product, or is this doing this because it's to deceive somebody to think it's a more powerful product? And this is something that is third party out there that I have confirmed through other ones. And I don't want to go through and stir this, but this is something where if I tell people this is something that you can check with basic tools that some of you probably already have. And if you do this and you take it to your power supply and you hook it up and you see that it's 7 volts, that's a measure of it's a quality piece of equipment that you can trust. That the number it says on the screen should match within a certain percentage of the number that's coming out and going to your machine. That's to be assumed, right? I don't have to say that there's ones out there that are bad or worse. I just have to say that, okay, what is a good power supply? And that's one of the topics I'll cover, is that a good power supply, the output voltage should match what the indicated voltage is. That's going
But
to be.
keep in mind, people have been doing this for 100 fucking years with absolute garbage. So that's what they're accustomed to. That's what and it's worked. I mean, you can't say it hasn't worked. There's millions of miles of fucking ink laid out there. Whereas we do like the newest, latest, greatest technological advancements and things like that. People have been doing it for fucking hundreds of years with very primitive bullshit. And the truth is, it's like people are becoming more educated and more aware of this. But if you look out in the tattoo world, I'm going to say 80% of the people that get tattooed still don't know what a good tattoo looks like. So I'm going to go so far as to say 80% of the people buying power supplies don't know or care what a good power supply. If it makes the needle go up and down, they're satisfied, right?
I would just put out that, hey, if I'm buying any sort of power supply. So back in the day, people used to buy benchtop lab power supplies to drive their coils off of, and that was a standard of power that you knew was a lab power supply and had ratings on it that said that it had a noise and all these other properties on it that when you dialed in that voltage on the display, you knew that what was coming out of those output ports was that voltage. So again, that's what the current reading that was on that thing is going to be accurate. That's just like your speedometer in your car. You would assume that an indicated reading of a gauge is supposed to be accurate. I'm just seeing a problem where there's multiple companies out there that have either since or around the same time that we have started trying to do technology and tattoo equipment and come into the space that I am kind of not by myself in over here, but to a degree, there's not a lot of people out there that are pushing their own circuit boards and pushing their own apps and pushing their own firmwares and doing all this stuff and doing all that in-house for the tattooing industry. So we are kind of unique there.
You're still so fucking young in this game. I'm getting to the fucking finish line. As I learn, I'm trying to share things with other people who are either A, haven't been in the game long like yourself, or people, old fuckers like me that have been in the game for a while and just never learned anything or wanted to learn anything. So I like to share the things I learn with other people. That's just who I am.
Hey guys, this is Aaron from Tattcom, and if you want to come hang out at the Needlejig Northeast Meetup, October 24th and 25th, and talk about all kinds of things tattooing technology related, I am into all of it, from the hardware to the software, machines, power supplies, you name it. We can nerd out on it, so let's go hang out.
Monday, we're going to go talk tattoos with Aaron, and we're going to fucking learn everything you never wanted to know. All the little dirty secrets about your power supplies.